Alright guys, welcome to another video by me, Boilon, and unfortunately today I also don't have myself on webcam. That's because I'm doing this from my kitchen downstairs. Also, my hair looks nuts, and I don't have my green screen set up, so it looks a bit awkward with my webcam kind of covering the bottom left-hand corner of the frame. So, I'm not showing myself today, but what we are going to be talking about is my patch 5.4 tier list. This is going to be the end of the Infinity Watch patch. I did make some adjustments to the tier list from last month, and hopefully you guys will follow along. We're also going to be discussing what the letters mean, because I realize that not every patch have I actually been doing this. So just for some people who might be new to the channel, who might be new to the tier list videos, I do want to go over those very quickly before we get started on the actual characters themselves and who's been adjusted for this month. So sit back, relax, and without further ado, let's get things. Alright guys, and welcome to the tier list. This is the patch 5.4 tier list. The infographic might look a little bit different. My shout out goes to OCJ421 for the help on this infographic today. He's the one who's been doing my my patch tier list for the last couple of months. So thank you, OCJ, for doing this once again. And there have been some changes to the layout of the tier list that I do want to kind of throw out there before we get started. And so you might notice at the beginning of each of the letters, at least for A plus, and S here, you can kind of see that basically it's highlighted a little bit more. Actually on B as well here, that the colors are a little bit brighter, and this is where all of the adjusted characters are going to go. So this is where they're going to go if they've been adjusted. I don't think I really added anyone to C. It's mostly been B, A plus, and S. And I do want to talk about what these letters mean before we get started on the character adjustments. So E, basically this is a no-brainer. E is absolute trash. These are the characters that you don't want to invest in. It's funny because I'm pretty sure Nebula was down here not too long ago, but she did go from 0 to hero literally in this patch. D are characters that are also not really worth investing in, but the only main reason why you might want to is because they're either available for a flash event or a legendary event in some cases for Sinister Six members. Nobu's on here as well, but mostly these are flash event type characters, Wakandans, Hand, those kind of characters. C are what I would call the supporting cast members of a team. So these are average characters. These are characters that you might build up a little way because you kind of need to fill out the team or whatever. You can see that Luke Cage and Iron Fist and the Defenders are on here. Hulk's on here. There's some other, X-Force members on here. They're not amazing characters. They're not the top tier. So if I had, if you had high red stars, I wouldn't recommend leveling these characters. I'd recommend leveling the ones in B and above, because those are the ones that are going to carry the team. I wouldn't say a lot of these characters in C are sort of team carries by any means. These are just the characters that you might have on the team to make sure it's a full 4 or 5 man team of whatever you're building. B is where things start to get a little bit better. These are the characters that are probably worth some investment. These are the better characters of a particular team. Negasonic, for example, for X-Force, and X-23 as well. Electro for the Sinister Six, Electro and Swarm here. Iceman and Kitty Pryde, I mean, they're down here as well, but that's because they're probably the weaker members of the Astonishing X-Men compared to some of the others. That means everyone else is better. Yelena for Skilletary, and so on and so forth. So that's what B is. A and above, these are the characters that you really want to focus on. A plus, and S. These are the characters that you want to probably build for sure. These are the characters that are going to be better in a wider amount of game modes, so make sure you do pick up a lot of these because they'll be helpful for you going forward. And obviously the S tier going forward. The reason why I have A and A plus, because I wanted to differentiate between them, that I think these are kind of the slightly better ones, but there's still anything A and above is worth building. The S tier are the best of the best in my opinion. These are the characters that are probably going to be harder to get, with the exception of one character on there. I'm probably sure you already noticed this, who is a bit more player friendly, but other than that, these are the characters that you should be building for one reason or another, because of their wider game mode usage, or just because they're that strong and they deserve to be on there. So without further ado, let's get started on the actual adjustments for this patch. We're going to start with the B tier here, and the adjustments that I made is Multiple Man, White Tiger, and Moon Knight from A to B. These were all demotions, and we'll start with Multiple Man, who's third on the list here. Reason why that Multiple Man made it to tier B is because he was A. I thought that he was a little bit better, but, you know, after having some time to think about it, I actually think that he's just kind of okay, you know, but he's better than C, just not an A. So he is usable in Dark Dimension 4 City outside of his team, and it's actually pretty good, but in terms of his wider usage, it's really just that and Alliance War offense, and in some cases, actually, multiple man kind of makes it harder for you to win because of all the clones. There have been times where I've been fighting Marauders, for example, and I've actually timed out because of all of my multiple man or my clone, my dupes, punching Emma Frost, and it just, you know, the time runs out because there's like 6 or 7 of them on the field, and they're all taking up time while I'm doing that. So that's a big pain in the ass for me, and I don't really use them much else other than those 2 game modes, and you don't actually have to have them. Dad Bros are still the most important ones for the X Factor team. You might need to build them, obviously, up to the required level for the Adam Warlock event, but other than that, I don't think you really need to go much further. And for that exact same reason, White Tiger and Moon Knight are down here as well at B. I'm going to talk about them both together. They are part of that Shadowland team, but realistically, you're probably not going to use them in Dark Dimension 4 City. I don't think they're really all that great. And even though they're Mystic, I don't think it's worth investing in for that Dark Dimension 4, or even 3 for that matter. And once again, they're a war offense team. So very similarly to X Factor, they are very good. And don't get me wrong, Shadowland's a lot of fun, and I like playing with them, but I just don't see the overall usage. I think beyond that, mine are sitting at gear 12, like level 60, 65. I haven't really put in a ton of resources for them. I think if you're putting into investment into war offense teams, or even war teams in general, then you must have a lot of gear left over or spare, because realistically you should be putting it into your raid characters, especially for Doom Raid as we go forward, and they also aren't really that great there either. So moving on to the adjustments for the A tier, we have a few here, but let's talk about here. So Nebula first. This was actually a jump up from B, and that was only because at the end of last patch, I knew that the rework was coming, but I didn't know exactly where to put her. Nebula is actually a pretty good rework. As far as reworks go, I think Nebula is probably one of the better reworks, notwithstanding Gamora. We'll talk about that separately, but the sort of best before Nebula's rework, Nebula and Gamora's rework, was Night Nurse, who I think still is a really great character, but she had a really stellar rework, and Nebula's has kind of gone above and beyond. And so as far as going from 0 to hero, Nebula has made some significant improvements, and I think she really deserves that. She is usable actually in Doom Raid Tech, believe it or not. It's not, I don't know if it's really making a huge amount of difference in my Doom Raid, but she is usable, so if you are building that Infinity Watch team, know that you can still use her there, because she does give the 20% assist chance to anyone, as long as you have that T4 in her passive. So she's pretty nice, and obviously the Infinity Watch team is very great. Now, Mr. Sinister, there is some contention here. I did downvote Sinister from A+ to A. Some people might give me some flack about this, maybe not. Sinister is slowing down a little bit in terms of where you might need him. Now, in terms of Dark Dimension 4, he is still very, very good there, but I think as we move forward, especially into next patch, we could be moving into a potential global skill kind of scenario for Dark Dimension, especially with the release of Sharon Carter and Captain Sam. And I just don't think that Sinister's arena prowess holds up anymore, even in a meta situation. A hybrid situation is what I meant to say. And so for that matter, I just don't think that Sinister is as good as he was a couple of months ago. Still a very solid character, so if you need a character to invest mutant resources into, it's not bad by any means, just he's not as useful as he once was. Ultron as well, getting a downgrade from A+ to A. This was because a couple of people in my Discord specifically were saying, hey, if Sinister is going down to A, then so should Ultron. And I don't think that the red stars from the dark credits, or whatever you want to call it, whatever, I think it's dark credits, really made a huge improvement to Ultron. I don't think it really made a significant amount of difference. It is helpful, of course, and Ultron is a good character, but in regards to people coming up the way now, you know, if you're an early or mid-game player, I don't know if I would really tell people to invest in Ultron, because I just don't think it's really all that worth it at this point anymore. So I did want to throw that out there. You know, it's just I have him in gear tier 14. I don't think I'll take him to 15. The red stars are what they are, and it's just not made a significant amount of difference. Thanos is receiving a downgrade from A+ to A. Man, how has the Black Order fallen? So yeah, empowered Thanos in the Black Order really getting crushed by that Infinity Watch team. Apparently you can like punch up anywhere from 300 to 400k on them. absolutely nuts. As far as a standalone character goes, though, it really depends on if you're using him in the empowered team or not. I'm finding that I think I'll probably be replacing Thanos in my Doom Raid as well. I think I'll be replacing him with Adam Warlock in terms of Doom Raid Mystics. So Thanos is definitely not as required as he once was. I'm not even sure if I would 100% recommend people to build him necessarily, unless you had like a 6 or 7 red star Thanos. I just don't think he's getting as much use out of my team, as my roster, as I used to. But the Black Order is still a solid offensive team. I don't think he's all as necessary as he once was. Black Bolt, very similar to Thanos. I think as we have more counters to Heroes for Hire, I don't know if Black Bolt is all that much necessary either. You know, I think he's... I don't know. He's maybe worth building to tier 13, 14, but I would not take him to 15. I am hoping that the Inhumans get some more royal family members in the form of Medusa in the near future. Medusa and Gorgon and whoever else might be joining. Maximus would be nice. But yeah, I just don't think the team is all that solid. There's been a lot of hybrid teams, you know, Black Bolt, Crystal, Yo-Yo, and Kestrel and Coulson, things like this. But realistically, the team itself is not that great. Black Bolt as a standalone character, there's not a lot of places I use him anymore. And so if you are a mid-game player coming up the way, I don't know if Black Bolt is all that much useful in this regard. So I think he is almost, I wouldn't say skippable, but in terms of legendaries, he's definitely not among the top anymore. And that's what brings us into the A+ category. So I want to talk about some of the characters that actually left the S tier and moved into the A+. So specifically, it's these two characters here, Emma Frost and Ebony Maw. Now, first of all, I want to talk about Emma Frost. This is very important. We're almost a year on, and Emma Frost still is not available in this game. She is not farmable. She is not anywhere to be seen. You can buy offers for her every now and then, but other than that, you cannot obtain her. So unfortunately, this does impact my opinion on her, because when there's a lot of newer players and mid-game players coming up the way who weren't around for her milestones and don't have her, it's like, well, you know, I can't really recommend her for using in different parts of the game if you can't get her, right? You know, that impacts my tier rating assessment for her, even though it shouldn't. I think availability of a character in this case is extraordinary, because Emma Frost still isn't available. She is a good character and definitely worth your resources and definitely worth investment, but the availability aspect is a serious problem. So it really depends on what star levels you have for her. You know, I have her at 6 yellow. Thankfully, I managed 6 yellow at the end of all 3 milestones. But if you weren't in this, if you only got maybe 1 milestone or got none and you don't have her, you're shit out of luck. And I think that causes huge problems for her. I don't know what they're gonna do, but unlock Emma Frost, unlock the corset, or you know, let her be free, please, because Emma Frost has been almost a year. This has been way longer than Symbiote Spider-Man was before he went into the milestone orbs. This is absolutely ridiculous, and no reason this should be happening. Ebony Maw. I do want to talk specifically about Ebony Maw here. Now, he did move down from the S to the A+. This is for a couple of reasons. Even though I think as we go on further into the game, I think while he's still a very strong character, he has moved out of a lot of game modes that I would have used him in previously. So in Arena, that's definitely not happening. And I think that you can still use him in Dark Dimension, but you do, unfortunately, in order to get Ebony Maw, you need to go to Black Bolt, right? You need to get Black Bolt, and Black Bolt's not very good these days either. So it's kind of almost like a means to an end. And it makes me wonder if in a few months, when the next Legendary comes out after Adam Warlock, that maybe he might get pushed aside slowly, because, you know, it's not really worth building up the entire Black Order anymore. So Ebony Maw, I wouldn't say he's kind of fallen off exactly. It's just that there are alternatives to him. You don't have to have him anymore, and so he's still a very great character, and if you have him, do gear him. But for other characters, other players coming up the way, I don't know if he's someone that you necessarily have to have. And that's where we get into the S tier category for adjustments and some of the new characters as well. But before we do, we need to talk about the brand new characters for this patch, and that's going to be Adam Warlock, Moondragon, and Phyla-Vell. So Phyla-Vell, sorry, not Bell. So let's get started on Phyla-Vell here. So I think she is probably one of the better of the two between Phyla-Vell and Moondragon. Some might say, why isn't Moondragon actually in the A tier category? Because I think this is maybe where I should have put her. But for now, they're going to stay together. And hey, that's appropriate because they're also a couple. I didn't actually do that with that in mind. But Phyla-Vell is one of the better characters. Her base stats are crazy good. Her debuffs are nice. And if you're going to be doing an Infinity Infinity Watch team, even without Adam Warlock, at a bare minimum, you need to have Gamora, Nebula, and Phyla-Vell. Those are the most important ones. Moondragon is still a good character. Her kit is very nice, but I think Phyla-Vell is the one that you want to have the most. Her special cleanses and also cleanses non-Infinity Watch members, which is really great, and her debuffs are very top-notch. Now, and actually, again, she is probably usable in Dark Dimension Cosmic alongside the other members of the Infinity Watch. I heard, actually, that you can beat Dark Dimension 3 Cosmic and Dark Dimension 4 Cosmic entirely on auto with the Infinity Watch team, so I haven't done it myself, but that's just what I've heard. Moondragon, on the other hand, she is useful, but we have noticed that in the arena meta, that she can actually be removed from the arena team and you can still win. So you don't actually need to have Moondragon here, and unfortunately, you know, if you don't have big numbers on her, big stars, then she might actually be more of a liability, and you could fill in with characters like Doom or Kestrel or something like that in your arena. Now, she is usable in Doom Raid, and she is a healer, so that helps as well. So Doom Raid skill, this is where you might make use of Moondragon a little bit more. And in Ultimus, if you're still in Ultimus, you can run that sort of Infinity Watch raid team, and that you'll need Moondragon as part of that as well. She does have a really solid kit. She has some turn rewind on her special, and her ultimate. This is my kind of big gripe with her ultimate, is that actually it comes a bit late in the fight, and it's very rare, especially in arena battles, that I actually get to see it used. And it does have defense down, which synergizes really nice with Kestrel, but again, it comes really late, unfortunately. But yeah, I think Moondragon is still a very solid character, and if you did manage to get some decent stars on her and some red stars, do gear her up, obviously, alongside the Infinity Watch team, because this whole patch has been Infinity Watch madness. So really, it's all that great, and you should build this team. Let's talk about Gamora, though, because as far as reworks go, they really hit it out of the park with Gamora. Like, so much so that she is one of the only early farmable characters that are available in a store that is on the S tier list here. None of these characters are available through currency in the stores, except for Gamora. And I don't think that this surprises anyone. Let me know if you think this is out of the, you know, if she doesn't deserve to be an S tier, but frankly, Gamora's rework was one of the best to ever come to the game, and that's saying something, because she was pretty below average for a very long time, and Gamora, they just knocked it out of the park. There's nothing more I can say about that. Her damage is through the absolute roof. Her basic, her everything. Her damage is so high. Her base stats got huge improvements, and there's not a ton much more I need to say about Gamora. She just wrecks everyone. She's just an absolute wrecking ball. Just goes around killing everything. Now, if you do want to get her empowered without the full Infinity Watch team, you do kind of need to run 3 members, or 2 other members. So at the very least, Nebula and Phyla-Vell, Nebula and Moondragon, Nebula and someone else, basically. Because of Nebula going first, it drops a charge off of Gamora, and that's really important to a 3 or 4 man Infinity Watch team. So if that's what you're doing, or what you're planning on doing, make sure you do that. But Gamora, man, oh man, I don't know if they'll ever have a rework as good as that, and if they do, you're going to need to get a PhD in passive reading. I don't know if you've ever brought up Gamora in the game, but if you actually scroll over her passive and you expand it, the text is so huge on the screen that it actually covers the majority of it. I'm not even joking. But let's talk about Adam Warlock. So this is going to be the final character to talk about here on the patch 5.4 tier list. This might be premature, putting him here in the S tier, being at the top here. And the reason why I did this, some might say that maybe he deserves to be in the A+ tier as well, and not the S, because he's actually not as necessary as a lot of people thought he was. Yes, the safeguard is crazy, but he is beatable, and the 5-man Infinity Watch team is beatable without him. So it makes you wonder, why is he up at S tier? So originally when Jubilee came out, and I have to pivot slightly to talk about this, I had originally Jubilee when she first came out at A, because I actually really didn't like her as much at the time. I didn't use her much. I didn't really appreciate her, what she could do outside of her own team, and also within her team. And then eventually she made it to the A+ category because I started using her more, and I was like, oh, hey, you know, she's actually better than I thought. And so for Adam Warlock, I'm kind of preemptively doing this. I think Adam Warlock is better than we give him credit for. I think his debuffs are very solid. I think that a lot of people just haven't had a chance to try him out in other game modes and see what he does, both standalone and maybe with like a mini hybrid team of Infinity Watch, you know, him, Gamora and Phyla-Vell, for example. You know, I think that he might have more flexibility than we think. His debuffs are good. You know, he does apply ability block for 2 turns. and disrupt to all protectors and villain protectors, and more, sorry, ability block to villain protectors, and his ultimate does a stun, and his basic prolongs negative stats effects, and he can revive. So I think a lot of these will probably do well into Dark Dimension. I think that'll be very good for Dark Dimension 4 Legendary lane. I think even Dark Dimension 3 Cosmic, running with the full Infinity Watch team, I think that's going to be very good when people actually get around to doing that, and I think it'll be easier to unlock Adam Warlock the second time around, and so for some people coming up the way in the mid game, that might be possible actually, because Jubilee might be possible to unlock before Dark Dimension 3, and therefore Adam Warlock will be pretty easily unlockable as well. So I think this is entirely possible. So I am a little bit preempting this by putting Adam Warlock in the S tier. Feel free to disagree on me on this one here. That's okay. I mean, maybe he could have been A+ as well. I could have started him up in A+ and moved him up to S later on, but he's going to be at the S tier for the moment as the brand new Mythic Legendary character. He does have a solid kit. I think a lot of people are just disappointed with him overall compared to maybe some of the other characters, because we've had massive power creep in recent days, or I say recent days, recent months and recent patches, basically since Silver Surfer came out and then Kestrel came out, and then we had the Infinity Watch rework and stuff like that, that a lot of people have been crying about this this power creep. But I do want to say, Dr. Doom, not obsolete. Definitely deserves to be up here still. He is worth gearing. Please do that, even though he does share the same unique as Adam Warlock, a still very important member to your roster. So don't think that any of these characters, especially in the A+ or S, have been made obsolete. Doomraid has actually really improved a lot of these characters, and if you think that some of these characters shouldn't be where they are, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. I'm more than happy to take a look and, you know, make some adjustments for next time. I do make adjustments every single patch. I just don't think there's been a terrible amount of change in the Infinity Watch patch. We've been very enamored with Infinity Watch and going over how powerful they are. I don't think other characters made a significant amount of movement, whether it's for better or for worse. I did obviously make some demotions here, but it didn't change as much as some of my patches do. So let me know all of that in the comments down below. That's going to be the end of this patch 5.4 tier list video, guys. I hope this helps. I'll be making this available in the description of the video below. This will also be available on my Discord channel if you are a member there. If you're not, I do recommend joining up, and we talk about lots of Marvel Strike Force there. And if you want to debate me on the tier list, feel free to do that as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and of course, until next time, guys, stay safe, and I'll see y'all later. Boilon signing out.